Then conflict returned, and suddenly the region is once again being judged primarily through the lens of security risk and oil prices. It's like trying to open a luxury hotel during an earthquake. Technically possible, terrible timing. And oil itself creates another layer of economic distortion. At first glance, wars in the Middle East often seem good for oil exporters. Prices rise, revenue increases, governments earn more money. But higher oil prices are not always stable wealth. Sometimes they become a trap because governments start budgeting around elevated prices. Then prices fall later. Spending stays high, deficits explode. We've seen this cycle before, again and again and again. Short-term oil windfalls create the illusion of resilience, while deeper structural problems remain untouched. Youth unemployment, weak private sectors, heavy state dependence, debt burdens, currency pressure. The war doesn't solve those problems. It postpones them. And meanwhile, ordinary people absorb the real cost. Inflation is where geopolitics becomes personal. Food prices rise, fuel prices rise, electricity costs rise. Imported medicine becomes harder to afford. A regional conflict eventually reaches kitchen tables, not through missiles, through receipts. And this is where the situation becomes politically dangerous, because many governments in the region operate on an unwritten social contract. The government provides stability, subsidies, jobs, or cheap energy. And in return, people tolerate limited political power. But inflation weakens that contract, fast. History shows this repeatedly across the Middle East. When living costs rise faster than wages, economic frustration eventually becomes political frustration. Bread prices have triggered unrest before. Fuel subsidies have triggered unrest before. Currency collapses have triggered unrest before. The region remembers this history very well, which is why governments become trapped between two bad options. Spend heavily to maintain stability, or cut spending and risk public anger. Neither option is cheap. And then there's the global side of this story, because the Middle East doesn't operate separately from the world economy anymore. Europe depends on regional energy flows. Asia depends on shipping routes. Global markets react instantly to escalation fears. One drone attack can move oil prices worldwide before breakfast. That's not an exaggeration. That's modern finance. Algorithms now react to geopolitics faster than diplomats do. And yet, despite all this damage, something strange keeps happening. Markets adapt, shipping routes shift, oil buyers find alternatives. Investors reprice risk. Governments issue more debt. Central banks intervene. The system bends without fully breaking, at least for a while, which creates the illusion that everything is manageable. But prolonged instability works differently from sudden catastrophe. It slowly reduces future growth. Projects never happen. Factories never open. Tourists never arrive. Young workers leave. Investors choose safer regions. The economic loss becomes invisible because it's measured in opportunities that never existed. And that may be the most expensive consequence of all. Not destruction, delay. A generation stuck waiting for stability before real economic development can begin. Again. Because this isn't the first time war has reshaped Middle Eastern economies. And that's exactly what makes this moment unsettling. The region knows this cycle intimately. Conflict, oil shock, debt, inflation, reconstruction, then another conflict. The names change, the technology changes, the speeches change, but the economic pattern keeps returning, which raises an uncomfortable question. If entire economies repeatedly become vulnerable every time regional tensions explode, was the system ever truly stable to begin with?